everybody. Welcome to Dive Deep. I'm Shelby Cornett, and I'm the ministry assistant at Cambridge City Christian Church, and this is Danny.
Hey, Shelby.
Hi.
That was like the fakest smile ever. So anyway, how was your Easter?
Awesome. How was your Easter?
It was good. Yeah, we had a great Easter here. I mean,
Yeah.
the weather was fantastic and
It was
beautiful
so
day.
nice.
Beautiful day. Good time of worship. Everything went great. It was a good day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My kids are fun at Easter now.
Yeah, it is fun having little kids at Christmas and Easter, so all the holidays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Their egg hunts.
Yeah.
And
I love my kids, but they're older and,
they don't get excited about Easter baskets.
No.
And
No, we didn't really. We had some cousins come in, and they have kids. Some nieces that came with their kids, and that was fun with them, But our kids, we just usually either like just give them some money or a gift. Yeah, Josiah was funny because his blinds in his bedroom had been broken for a little while, so that was his gift for Easter. He got a blinds, and he was so excited.
that's funny.
I'm like, wow. I said, you've turned adult if you're
Yeah.
excited about getting blinds on Easter. So
I think I was like 17 or 18, and I got a toolkit for Easter.
that's a good Easter.
Yeah, it is. I mean, use it.
So yeah, it was good though. It
Yeah.
was good celebrating the resurrection of Jesus, and it's good to see people at church we hadn't seen maybe for a little while. That was a blessing, and yeah, it was a good day.
Yeah, it
a good
was.
day. Yeah. So we wrapped up Mark. 5 weeks later. I think this was the 26th
I don't know. It was a
week.
long
Yeah.
time.
26 weeks of Mark, and we
And it was my favorite.
touched on a lot of stuff, didn't we? Touched on a lot of stuff.
I feel like I always say with each sermon, I'm like, oh, I really liked that one. Oh, I really liked. But I think this one is actually my favorite.
The book
So far.
the
study.
study, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's always helpful to go verse by verse and look at things as chronologically as you can. It kind of gives you a more robust understanding of things, because like whenever you hear sermons in the future now, you should anyway have a little bit better of an understanding if somebody makes a reference to Mark, of
Right.
where that happened along the story of Christ and whatnot. So yeah, it was an excellent book. I really enjoyed studying and preparing for it, and
And the way we ended it right on Easter, like the timeline, just worked out nice.
yeah. And this week we went through what is technically the final 8 verses of the book. I mean, there are more verses. I referred to it on Sunday, how there are more verses, but most people think that was added later. So generally, I try to avoid those texts.
Yeah.
We want to try to go back as early as we can with the text, because that gets us closer to the original writing. So anyway, it just if you go by the first 8 verses, we have the 3 ladies, right?
Yeah.
Mary, Martha, and Mary. They all go to the tomb, and they're expecting Jesus to be dead. They're going to go there to prepare his body. Remember,
They were ready to fight the guards.
Well,
not fight the guards,
well,
but
Yeah, I mean, I think
they were expecting guards, right?
Yeah, the plan was to probably talk to the guards and say, "Hey, will you open this so we could prepare his body?" Because the reason they went back on that Sunday was because you got to think of it timeline wise. So Jesus, obviously, he died in the afternoon on Good Friday. Well, then sundown came on Friday, which is the Sabbath, and
Okay.
according to Jewish law, on the Sabbath, you're not really supposed to do anything. That was one of the problems Jesus had in his ministry. He got in trouble a few times for doing things on the Sabbath.
Okay.
And so what they did was they took him from the cross and they put him in Joseph's tomb, Joseph of Arimathea's tomb, as quickly as they could before sundown. So they didn't have time to
Okay.
prepare his body. So they put him in the tomb, closed it up. We know from other gospel accounts, soldiers were there guarding the tomb. It was sealed and all that. So then Sabbath ends Saturday night. Well, by that time, it's dark. Because remember, it goes from sundown to sundown. So when the Sabbath is over and you can finally go do something, well, then it's dark.
Right.
So you don't want to go over there in the dark. So the next morning, Sunday morning, the first opportunity they got, they go to the tomb to prepare his body. And when they arrive, something crazy happened.
Yeah.
The tomb was open. There were no guards. And what was even more concerning was there was no Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a guy sitting in there.
Oh, yeah.
Remember? In a white robe.
Yeah.
An angel told them that they were afraid, obviously, and they were worried. They're like, who took Jesus? He's like, hey, don't be afraid, because he's alive. He's risen from the dead.
Mm-hmm.
And then the book ends with them running from the tomb,
Mm-hmm.
and that's it.
Yeah.
It's kind of an odd ending if you
It
think about
is.
it. And I think that's why later some people thought, we need to add more of the story to
Right.
this so that it doesn't end with just them running from the tomb. But in its own way, I think the idea of them running from the tomb, I think Mark's trying to communicate with them and even with us. God's communicating that, what's our reaction going to be to the empty tomb?
Mm-hmm.
Will we run from it? Will we run to it? Will we tell the world about it? We know that they, obviously from other Gospels, we know that they told
Mm-hmm.
what had happened. And we know that in other Gospels it tells us they went and ran, and then Peter and John went running to the tomb.
Right.
And they had this great foot race, and Peter beat John there. And,
Mm-hmm.
so anyway, it's a very interesting ending to the book.
Yeah. The angel part,
Yeah.
biblically,
Mm-hmm.
aren't angels kind of like scary?
Well, yeah, I mean, you do get that. I mean, that's a whole other discussion. But,
Okay.
I mean, there are places in the Bible where it seems as if the angels are ferocious and fierce. And then there are other stories where they sound more conciliatory and
Mm-hmm.
soft,
Kind of like we
Um,
picture angels here, and you picture the
Yeah.
little people with wings.
Yeah.
And
I don't know that the Bible makes that
yeah.
imagery. I'm not a big fan of it. Here a while back, and maybe they're still big, these precious moments figurines. Not a fan of that, because that's not at all the biblical idea of what
When I
an
was
angel
little,
is.
my great grandma's house was just covered with
Yeah.
angels.
Yeah. There was I know when I was in high school, there was a kind of a movement that happened back in the late 90s, early 2000s on angel worship.
Mhm.
And it didn't last for very long. But yeah, there are just some people that really they kind of focus more on the angels than on God himself. And
Mhm.
that's dangerous. But anyway, yeah. Just an amazing remembering that Easter Sunday and what it
Mhm.
means for us, and the resurrection brings us new life.
Mm-hmm.
That death is no longer our enemy, can hold us down.
Mhm.
Jesus has broke us out of prison,
Yeah.
and so that's what the day was all about. And we just it was a really great day to celebrate and just be thankful
Yeah.
for who Jesus is as we wrapped up the book.
Yeah.
So it was really good.
Yeah, I
It was really
enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So this week we started a new series.
Start a whole new series. It's just it's about 5 weeks. It's I believe it's 5 week long series.
Okay.
It's going to be talking about Daniel.
Okay.
And the series is called Thriving in Babylon.
Mhm.
And we're not going to go through the whole book. We're generally going to focus. So the book of Daniel is kind of divided into two parts.
Mhm.
So you have the narrative of Daniel's life, and then you kind of have Daniel's prophecy.
Mm-hmm.
We're only going to be looking at the first part, kind of the narrative.
Okay.
So that's the first 6 chapters of Daniel. And so we'll be going over those 6 chapters over the next few weeks. And
Mhm.
we're going to talk about, how do we stand in our faith when we're surrounded in a culture and a society that is pulling away from God? I mean, we see it on the news,
Mm-hmm.
social media. I mean, so how do we maintain our faith when things are just going so sideways,
I think that'll be especially even in the last 6 months or
Yeah.
so, things have gotten.
Well, things have really accelerated, and I'm
Hectic.
sure we'll get into some of this discussion over the next few weeks. But we definitely know that a lot of things that are unbiblical
Mm-hmm.
have accelerated over the last several years. And so, a lot of times what we do is we tend to focus on that problem. And
Mhm.
I'm not saying we shouldn't speak to God's truth, and we're going to talk about that. But really a bigger question is, how do we uphold our faith and joy in that? Because it's really easy to
Mhm.
look at all the bad news and allow ourselves to just be kind of pulled down with it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not what God wants for us. He wants us to live with joy. So how do we maintain joy when the environment, the world that we're in, is just falling apart? And I mean, this story, I mean, what we're going to look at can definitely fit into the macro, and that's where we're going to focus mostly, is on the world generally.
Mm-hmm.
But even in our life specifically, like, what do we do when bad things happen in life?
Right.
Like, how do we respond to it? How can we still have joy when those bad things happen? So that's going to be our focus over the next few weeks, and we'll kind of learn some things from Daniel, a very interesting character, who had some things that maybe we've never, when we think of Daniel, we usually think of him in the lion's den, but there's a lot more to Daniel than the lion's den, and we'll get into all that.
Cool.
So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. I've liked this series, but it'll be nice too to have something new, a change.
Yeah. We're going to do a little bit of Old Testament here for a while. We're going to do Daniel. Then we'll have a couple weeks with Memorial Day and whatnot. And then we're going to do the book of Psalms. We're not going to go through all of the Psalms because we do that for 3 years probably if we did every Psalm. But we're going to hit 10 of them this summer.
Okay.
And we'll kind of jump through those and kind of see what they're about. So
That'll be a good summer thing.
Yeah.
Yep. Did you have anything else?
I don't. I just hope everybody watching had a great Easter. And I just hope that you live every day with the hope of Jesus in your heart, right?
Yeah. All right. All right. So we'll see you guys next week as we talk about the first week of Thriving in Babylon. So have a good week.